What's up, YouTube? What's up, Wolfpack? What's going on with y'all? Nitty, what it is, baby?
Man, chilling, man. Just thinking about some of the questions be asked to me, man, and to kind of pick up on the last time when I spoke on this. A lot of people say, man, they say, man, is it really like this, that, and the third? I have nephews and stuff like that, and they sit back and hear stories and stuff. And I said, man, it's really nothing like you see on TV. I said, man, it's definitely a whole different world in there. Being sent to prison, especially for any significant amount of time, is, mentally, it's almost like getting sent to another country, right? Because here it is in this world, it is a whole different set of rules, set of laws, beliefs, and violations. You know, One of the things that immediately pops up in my mind that I hear a lot of the YNs be saying now, they have a tendency to call each other bitches, right? And to each their own. And it's not something that I'm with, right? But I find it amazing because out here they do it as plain and as a sense of affection, in some cases. When in prison, if you call a man a bitch, most likely you're gonna get yourself stabbed up or get busted upside your head. So it's being in there is like completely opposite. A known child molester or a known rapist, right? Start out with a known rapist. Out here they could especially if they're financially set in some kind of way. They can have people around them, friends, and people go as far as saying they love them, right? But in there, you are the scum of the earth, and that goes times 10 when it comes down to a child molester, right? Or someone who has killed or harmed a child in some way, right? So, and mentally, you have to really prepare yourself for that because just because your beliefs is one way on the streets, and you always have dudes talking about, man, shit, I'm gonna do what I do, man. I'm be me. You're not. Just that simple. You're not, right? Because one thing that always happens in there, just like all mad dogs throughout history, when you have become uncontrollable, somebody most certainly will put you down, right? And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, right? It's like what they call dragging out here. Man, drag on it, nigga, drag on it. You can't do a whole lot of that. I had I ain't gonna say a friend, but we was cool since the juvenile joints. He was out of DC, dude they used to call Big Ant. And Big Ant was he was a bully, right? He was a bully, man, and like he would like stand on the flats when we was in in Merle House Correction, what is better known as the cut, right? He would stand on the flats, make the dudes come out the commissary, man, and he would like, take stuff out their bag and this and that might pop and slap them, anything, right? And I used to always tell him, I said, yo, you better stop that. I said, yo, somebody will end up killing you about that. Man, fuck these niggas, man, fuck these bitch ass niggas, Joe. Man, I'm telling you, man, I'll knock one of these bammers fuck out the ever buck, this and that. So, all right, man. Lo and fucking behold, right? He was fucking with this dude by the name of Lionel, right? And I don't actually got time for that shit and everything, man. It was so fucked up because that man had 3 years. 3 fucking years, man, before he could ready to get back out there in society. And Ant had already did it to him once. right? He come out the joint, he take his shit out there and all this. And I think like either the next week or the following week, Aunt caught him come out of the commissary again. And as soon as he came out of the commissary, he went to go take his commissary bag. And he hit that man one time in his fucking temple and killed him. He hit him in his motherfucker. And I lied to you not, he killed him so instantly that when he was laying on the ground, he was actually, his hand was in motion, like he was reaching for his temple, and his eyes was open. He was dead. He killed him instantly, stabbed him in his temple. I can't remember exactly what kind of joint, but it's like mentally you had to get yourself prepared for how you gonna handle this situation. That's why, I said I do the interviews, not to preach at the youth or anything like that, but I do them to say, yo, really know what you're getting ready to face. And if you say you really built for that shit, then hey, you gotta make your own choice. But I'm telling you that it gets so real in there. Like mentally, you have to prepare yourself for someplace that it is never quiet. 24 hours around the fucking day, it is going to be noise. It's going to be kicking on 300 steel pound doors, like guys is in a horse stable, like the horses. You're going to have all kind of stuff, man. And you're going to have dudes screaming, you're going to have dudes arguing, you're going to have dudes cussing each other out. You're going to have dudes trying to hold conversations, and all this shit is going on at one fucking time. Mentally, you had to be definitely mentally tough to handle that. You have to know what it feels like to every day, especially if you in a serious kind of joint, right? You had to be prepared every day to either lose your life or take somebody's life, because shit like that happens in an instant. Now, a lot of people think, hey, that's easy to do. I'm telling you that it's not. Like I said, I done seen some of the baddest dudes coming in, man. I mean, they gangsters. And I still to this day don't take them from they gangsters. But one thing about like the penitentiaries and stuff like that, and especially when you're in spots that got a significant amount of time, one of the things that you'll see in there is that if this motherfucker, if he go for bad, then man, instead of sending one nigga at him, two niggas at him, let's send 10. And like I told dudes, man, you hear dudes like what's that dude, Fleece Johnson and all this, and he talk about this fucking shit, he raping motherfuckers in the penitentiary, which personally I believe he's nothing more than a garden riding homosexual. However, it's that kind of shit, at least in the Maryland prison systems, especially in maximum security joints, that's where dudes go when they really got a lot of time. They got life and 50 years and 100 years and shit like that. That's where they go. They go there. That shit don't really be like that in there no more, right? Surprisingly, and this for the women out there in Maryland and in Baltimore, PG County, all that shit. Yes, the spots like Hagerstown and shit like that, where motherfuckers only got 6 months and 8 months and shit like that. Yes, it is where a lot of the homosexuals be at, and yes, that's where it is where a lot of them dudes go mess with homosexuals at. I'm just saying, protect yourself. However, it's stuff like that you got to be really, like I said, really prepared for, like mentally, man, like of everything. Like just sit down there and know that one of your parents just died or your grandparents just died, and you can't go out there on them flats on that tier and show any weakness. That's what you have to be prepared for mentally in there. I done seen guys, man, like one of my best friends to this day, a dude by the name of Joe Lewis, come out of Baltimore. Man, he's one of the strongest dudes I know mentally, man, because I was sitting next to him when he got the news of his son dying, his son getting killed. And I heard him say, "Dang." Well, man, I gotta start worrying about the other one now. And it fucked me up that it seemed like he grieved in an instant and it was over. That's the kind of stuff you had to be mentally prepared for when you in there. But until next time, peace.
Hey, to the youth, I hope you're paying attention. The inside the penitentiary and outside is two different worlds. Think about what you're doing, the choices you're making. You cannot take your guns inside the pen with you. Goes back to your fighting skills on a lot of things and stuff. Even if you got to fight an opponent with a knife and you got a knife, keep all that in mind. Hey, Nitty, before we go there, I forgot to ask you about this Shannon Sharp thing. I know you've been watching. Give me your take on that real quick.
Well, first and foremost, man, let me say this. I ain't letting nothing go in my ass. It's just that simple. And even when my nieces and daughters them told me I had to get out, what's them? I said, okay, is they gonna knock me out? Because other than that, it's gonna be a fight in that fucking hospital room, right? Just as a man and as a nigga that been in the joint. And yo, wow, man, because he got this little white girl, man. Now she done let the cat out the bag. She put a tongue all in his ass, and now she's suing him for $50 million I hear, or fuck this contract up for $100 million. Some wild shit like that, man. And I'm still trying to get over the shit when Superhead put the nigga Ja Rule out there. She used to, put him in the buck and all this old shit, stick a tongue in his ass. I mean, it's I guess different strokes for different folks, and it's just not for me. But I'm tripping because now he might have to end up giving this girl all this fucking money, all these millions of dollars, and I know bitch would have ate his ass for free. I'm talking about know them, like been around them, never mess with them. But I know they some butt munching little motherfuckers, so I know that. So yeah. I'm just, stuff like that, man. I just find it amazing. But like I said, I'm going to catch up to y'all the next time. Peace.
Hey, thanks for watching Silver Wolf TV. God bless.